a second for people to hop in here. Definitely going to be heavy with information tonight, so I want to give everybody a chance to hop in before I pull you guys all down the rabbit hole with me. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Priyanka. This one's going to be probably really long. You've been forewarned. Probably a little scattered. It's definitely still a working theory that developed along the way and has a fucking mind of its own. So I'm going to do my best. It shows that I have 0 people watching, but I see people in the chat. So bear with me while I just go and check what's going on over there. Kelly, I'm going to have my phone here by me because for the majority of this, I'm going to be over with the slides. I'm not going to have the chat in front of me or we will be here all night. So if for any reason it glitches out, can you text me and let me know? And I'll have this right here with the sound on. This is going to be the last live stream that we use this software for because it's just literally one thing after another. So I'm going to be switching to Zoom hopefully next week. So, okay, I see that people are watching now on the top. Hey, everybody. Okay, so I have to, thank you, Kelly. So I'm not very popular, so that will not be going off through the whole thing. Hi, Erica. Welcome. Priyanka. All right. So this one's going to be a little bit different. I have literally, of course, 13 pages of downloads. That's the best way I can explain them. Oftentimes these things just like hit me. Like I had one hit me at like 8:51 that I'm going to bring up later. But these are just downloads of information that came, those like aha moments where I've like pieced things together. A lot of it came through reading passages out of these books. So we're going to read out of these books, which I'm going to go over in a second. But this is still a working theory for me. I really am a firm believer if anybody tells you that they have the right way to do something like astrology, run in the opposite direction, because we're literally trying to decode the cosmos and nobody has figured out the right way to do this. There's a multitude of ways to do this, and it really is a personal journey. So that's what I'm going to be talking about here tonight, was like my personal journey with Ophiuchus, however you want to pronounce it, how it kind of came to me, how I kind of understood it. I am going to be talking a little bit about 13th sign and why I feel it's limiting. But that was all stuff that came to me later through having to, that's still Kelly, for some reason it does it twice, research 13th sign, and it just not fitting for me. I actually met Ophiuchus or started working with Ophiuchus energy before I even knew what any of the houses, before I was an astrologer, and before I even knew like the basics of the zodiac. This energy had come to me and I had started working with it. So I never felt the need to kind of like put it in there because I think it kind of transcends it. So these are my personal experience, how it came to me. I know that there are countless other viewpoints out there. We're going to talk about how new this even is and how it's all something we're all tapping into as we go, and nobody really knows this energy. So just want to preference it. It wasn't you, Kelly. The phone does it twice. I just want to preference it with saying that I don't mean to like offend anyone. I know there's like a huge debate, lots of debates in the astrological community, whether whole sign or Placidus or any one of the other calculating house calculation systems, or sidereal versus tropical. And as with everything, I'm in the middle. I've actually been diving pretty heavily into my own sidereal chart. I'm going to talk here about the downloads that came through for me when it comes to sidereal and what I think how I am going to use it moving forward. I've been diving into progressions, and I think there is room for everything. So, and that we're all just looking for patterns within the whole. And because of the fractal nature of our reality, we can use that. There's valid information. So just wanted to preference it with saying that my views are going to be definitely different than mainstream astrologers, and definitely different than most of the people who work with Ophiuchus energy. I don't know. So I'm going to do the best I can here. It's going to be long. I have, like I said, it came to me in like bits and pieces, like oftentimes woken up at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., all the different AMs, when I'm just like, oh, and then I'll write it as notes. So I tried very hard over the couple days, like stressing myself out, trying to put this in like a clear and concise fashion. I just don't think it's there yet because, like I said, you'll see. I'm trying. It's gonna get really esoteric and really fucking weird, but I'm gonna pull you down the rabbit hole with me. I'm gonna kind of show you how I do this, how I use books, how a lot of this is like bits and pieces of information from like documentaries and books and this that I then like piece together, or my brain does, or they do, and then download it to me later, and I'm like, oh, and I put it in a puzzle piece. But like I said, I have a bunch of puzzle pieces, and I don't necessarily have the whole puzzle yet. But I was called to pull a book earlier, and the passage out of here really did help put a lot of my puzzle pieces together. So I'm certainly eager to read that to you. So yeah, it's going to be intense. I just want to show you the books that I'm going to be using tonight because I'm not going to have my camera on, so you guys know if you are interested. So I'm going to start first with like basic mythology. Who is this dude on like a mainstream mythological standpoint? What do like the normies know about him, and like astronomers and like basic Greek mythology? And I'm going to be reading just like a little story out of this book. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. He is French. It's a book from the 60s, and it's tame enough for children. So it does take a lot of the like rape and stuff out of the equation. I'm also going through like all my own personal notes of just like random shit I have written down. I'm any of the fixed star references where it's like generic. Oh, Priyanka, you know this book? Yeah, it's good. It's blurry, guys. I don't know. I don't know. But I think I need to return this camera because I don't think it works very well, but whatever. So I'm going to be also reading all the fixed star terminology out of Bernadette Brady's books. She has two different ones. I'm not going to be reading from this one, although this one is great. I'm going to be reading from this one, Star and Planet Combinations, and she is like the foremost expert on fixed star astrology, so I always reference her stuff. And we're going to be diving into like Fibonacci numbers and sacred geometry and things like that. So I'm going to be reading from this book, Math for Mystics. And then this is my favorite book. I love you so much. This is my favorite book of all time. I found it at a thrift store for $1, and it has helped me piece together so many rabbit holes, and it is a rabbit hole in and of itself. Sometimes I'm like afraid to even open it because then I just like get lost in it. And it's called A Dictionary of Symbols from the Philosophical Library. I'm not sure how to pronounce the author's name, but it's Cirlot, Cirlot, maybe. But it's just a compilation of like all different like esoteric and occult symbolism of like everything from A to Z. And we're going to be reading from here as well, because a lot of the stuff from here really helped tie a lot of it together for me. So I'm going to go over to my slides. Hi, everybody. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I always forget to say that. It does help my channel. And this video I did unlock for all the patrons, just because they pulled me down this rabbit hole and I felt like it was pretty intense information that I would like to share with my patrons. I'm also considering maybe releasing it on YouTube like next month before the next rabbit hole dive, just to show people like, oh, this was the last one. You want to come and join. And also the next couple ones are going to like feed off of this one. And this one actually plays off of both of our Draco video and our Chiron video and our Scorpio video where we dealt with all the archetypes. So hopefully you were with me for all of those. If not, the Draco one is available on YouTube for all tiers and everybody. And the other ones I think are only available if you're part of the tier that they were for. So I'm going to go over. Okay, so this is definitely going to get weird, but I'm going to pull you down. I have like so much notes, and that's another thing. Like, this is going to be super ADD, and I'm going to jump from thing to thing because, like I said, it's a working theory, and I haven't tied everything together, but I can see how it's all relevant. And we're going to just go through this together, and bear with me. If you need to leave and like watch it later or whatever, go for it. This thing has consumed like a week of my life and would have taken more if I let it. And I'm not done. I was working all the way up until it started. Like I said, at 8:51, I was pulling all my books, the stack of books, and I'm like carrying it over here, and I set it down, and it like hit me that you'll see later when I show you my chart, I have a lot of black holes in my chart, and black holes suck in matter, they suck in stars, they suck in information, and then they like spew it out of their center in like a beam out into the cosmos for others to share. And it like totally hit me. Like, that is literally what I'm doing. I am consuming information and I'm about to like spew it out into the cosmos for others to share. But that's how things just like come to me, how these things work. I don't really know how to explain it. It's super strange, and welcome to my life. So I'm going to share this over here. And yeah, I definitely recommend that book. It's just the best for tying things together. And what I like is it does the research for you. I like to see what all cultures think of a sign or a symbol. And most like occult books or whatever are either like from the Kabbalahs or like based around like Jewish mysticism or like Christian lore or like Scandinavian, whatever it may be. They usually have like a certain area of like dogmatic belief that they are pulling their references from, when this book tells you like everywhere. So it's going to be great. So I'm going to shut up because we'll be here all night. You guys can hear me, right? I just have to wait for somebody to tell me yes before I start. Okay, so this picture here we're going to visit again later, so I'm not really going to reference it now, but I was super stoked when I found it because it definitely helped articulate some of the points I'm going to make here tonight. Thank you, Priyanka. So like I said before, this is my personal rabbit hole. I'm not here to tell anybody that what they're doing is wrong. I really think that they're as above, so below. You know, that is what I tie everything back to, is that simple hermetic principle, is as above, so below. So I really do feel that everything up there should be used. But I also see this like divine blueprint here that's playing out, and like I feel that we are also stuck within a matrix system and trying to escape. And yeah, so I think that the serpent is what helps us find that way out, and we're going to talk about that tonight. So I'm not going to really cover it too much now. This is all stuff I'm going to repeat. Where's my slides? All right, guys. So who is Ophiuchus? First, we're going to go over the mythology. So like I said, I'm going to read from this book, we're going to talk a little bit about centaurs. So, the wild and vulgar centaurs do not honor any of the gods. They were half men and half horse. And also, I'm just going to preface this with saying, especially when I'm reading from that occult book, I can't pronounce words very fucking well. Even words that I know totally what they mean, I am probably going to pronounce them wrong. And when it comes to people's names, oh my God, like, please bear with me. I am just a human with a lot of learning disabilities. Okay, so they were half men and half horse, and as cunning as wild men and as savage as untamed horses. They had inherited the worst dispositions of both. The first centaurs had come tumbling out of the cloud that their father, Axion, king of the Lapith people, had married. Mistaking it for the goddess Hera, Zeus had created the cloud to test the ungodliness of the wicked king who wanted to carry her off, meaning rape her. Axion was severely punished for his ungodliness. He was condemned to whirl about forever in the underworld, tied to a flaming wheel. But his offspring, the centaurs, remained on earth as a scourge to the Lapidith people. The centaurs had lived without law and order, stormed over fields, trampled crops, and carried off the Lapidith people, women. And they ate raw meat. The young centaurs were no better than their elders. They were poorly brought up by parents who kicked them and spanked them and left them to fend for themselves. There was one centaur who was kind and wise and fond of children. His name was Chiron. Though he looked like the other centaurs, he wasn't related to them at all. He was the son of Kronos, the Titan, and was immortal. Chiron was famous as the greatest teacher in Greece. Kings brought their small sons to him so he could raise them in the true spirit of heroes. In this quiet cave on Mount Pilon, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, he taught them manly sports and how to use the healing herbs of the earth and how to read the stars in the sky. All his pupils returned to their homes, exceeding their fathers in courage and knowledge. One day, Apollo brought to Chiron his little mortal son, Asclepius. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong too. That is the Greek word for the Roman name is Ophiuchus. Asclepius, I think is how you say it. His son Asclepius. His mother, a Lapidith princess, had died, and Apollo asked Chiron to raise the boy. Asclepius grew up in Chiron's cave, raised with loving care, and being the son of Apollo, he soon surpassed his foster father in his knowledge of healing the sick. When he was grown, he left Chiron's cave and went down from the mountain to help the people of Greece. He became the first physician. People flocked to him from far and near, and many who came on crutches went away skipping and dancing. As you'll see later, it has a Christ element to it as well. We'll talk about how he is the son of Apollo, so he is the son of the sun, and it does have a Christ consciousness aspect that it definitely does. That is pretty much what we're talking about here, is the attainment of Christ consciousness here in this constellation, but more on that later. Where was I? The patients who came on crutches went away skipping and dancing. His patients adored him and showered treasures upon him, and it wasn't long before they worshipped him as a god and built temples in his honor. Asclepius put beds in his temples, and they became the first hospitals. There he went about from bed to bed, pleased to be looked upon as a god, leading on a staff entwined with sacred serpents. Serpents knew all the secrets of the earth and often told him the causes and cures for diseases. Sometimes he put his patients to sleep with a magic draught and listened to what they muttered in their dreams. Their words often revealed to him what caused their ailments, and he could then find a cure for them. Asclepius had a wife and 7 children. All the children followed in their father's footsteps. His sons were his assistant physicians. His daughters were his nurses. Hygiena, one of his daughters, washed and scrubbed her patients from morning to night, and it was a marvel to see how fast they regained their health. Before Hygiena's time, it was thought that soap and water would kill the sick. Asclepius grew famous, rich, and pink-faced. And as time went on, he grew so skilled in the art that he could even bring the dead back to life. The Fates became upset and complained to Zeus that they measured and clipped the threads of life in vain. Hades too was angry, for he was being cheated out of dead souls. Apollo pointed out to Zeus how much good his son was doing for mankind, and for a while Zeus was lenient. But when Asclepius accepted gold for bringing the dead back to life, Zeus hurled a thunderbolt at him. Nothing but a small heap of ashes was left of Asclepius, the first great doctor. But his temples and his teachings of medical science remained, and the gods put his image among the stars as a constellation. Apollo was furious with Zeus for killing his son and wanted revenge. He did not dare raise his hand against his mighty father, but he slew the Cyclopses who had given Zeus the thunderbolt. Zeus, in his turn, had to revenge the Cyclops. He punished Apollo for making him serve for a year. Okay, this is going on to other stories. We're about to talk about the Muses. Okay, so in summary of like the mainstream mythology surrounding Ophiuchus is another name for Asclepius, and he was the son of Apollo, and he was taught by Chiron the centaur. Sagittarius, so Ophiuchus falls in between Scorpio and Sagittarius. We're going to show later in some other slides how it kind of falls on the ecliptic, but it takes up the degrees of these two signs. And Sagittarius is, the centaur of Sagittarius is Chiron. So many people, when you look into Ophiuchus online, no, regardless of where you read, you're going to see different stuff. You're going to see basic things like we're going to read right now out of the Fixed Star book, that it's about being a healer and stuff like that. But when it comes to like the archetype behind it and what it really means, it's usually really different. And also like what element it falls under, or the rulership. Some people will say that the moon of Jupiter rules Ophiuchus. Some people will say that it's ruled by Chiron. Some people will say other things like that. Well, I believe that it's ruled by the Galactic Center, and we're going to talk more about that later. I think that it governs the whole. So we're going to look at what fixed star astrology, like basic fixed star astrology, which is based off of a major patriarchal system. This is written by a woman, but she is using a lot of information that comes out of like the patriarchal realm of astrology. So like I said, this is from Bernadette Brady, and we're going to read about the main star in we're going to read about Ophiuchus and then its main star, which I don't know how to pronounce. It's right here in its head. I have a ton of planets that align with it. And this is the word, and I'm not going to try to say it. So have fun. You guys can all try to say it. So Ophiuchus, which is known as the healer. The original constellation has now been broken up into 2. It's actually 3, which I think they do end up saying here. But it has Ophiuchus the man, which is right here. And then it has the serpent, which is broken up into 2. The head of the serpent and the tail of the serpent. Serpens, Cadruna, and Capult. which I'm also probably pronouncing wrong. The original constellation has now been broken up into two constellations: Ophiuchus, the serpent holder, and Serpens, the serpent in his grasp. The serpent itself has also been divided into two sections, one on each side of Ophiuchus, called Serpens caput and Serpens cadua, maybe, but probably not. When Scorpio lost its claws to Libra, it also lost most of its contact with the ecliptic. And so Ophiuchus cuts a larger track across the ecliptic than modern Scorpio. They kind of like cut it together, as you'll see before. Like Scorpio falls like directly, you can kind of see it here. The ecliptic runs like right through, it actually kind of runs like it kind of runs like this, like that. So like this little bit cuts through, we have a little bit that cuts through and a little bit that cuts through. And like the whole part that Ophiuchus is at, as you can see, Scorpio is underneath it. So like, we'll get to my downloads later, but like, I feel like you can't really tap into this until you've addressed all of this. And if you guys remember, we talked about a lot of that during our Scorpio moon, the transmutation that occurs there in Scorpio. Okay, Ophiuchus was known to the Greeks as Serpentaris, the healer, who was also the god Asclepius, the son of Apollo. He learned the healing arts from Chiron and is usually depicted as holding a stick on which a serpent is coiled. Later, under Christian influence, the constellation became St. Paul and the Maltese viper. The serpent was seen as a healing agent because it represented prudence, rejuvenation, wisdom, and rebirth. The main star, Razak, I'm not even going to try to say it, Razalhog, whatever, the healer, is known as the healer star. The themes of the star are that the healer, and by the way, our eclipse, our Sagittarius eclipse, which falls on December 14th, is going to be perfectly conjunct this point. And my moon, and my Uranus, and my opposite, my Chiron. The themes of the star are that the healer teacher, or are of the healer teacher, or the one who is wounded. With the star in the chart, one is drawn to the healing professions, or at least has a natural gift in that area. What one chooses to heal may vary, and it can lead to a life in politics or other areas of social healing. Whatever the symbolism of the star in a person's life, the driving force of its expression is to repair that which is damaged. It is to heal. And we're going to talk about how this energy has a dual manifestation and how I feel, why I feel this knowledge was hidden and things like that in a little while. I did just want to share with you what it means when your moon aligns with this point, because mine does, and so does Kelly's. It shows a person who probes the hidden meanings or sacredness of life. This person who brings relief, the person who makes the breakthrough. A human interest story inspires the population. Me and you, Kelly. Okay, so we're going to go on to kind of talk about the whole debate that we have going on here, when it kind of started, what it's all about, and then we'll get into like some of my opinions. So, and we'll talk about the different house calculations. I'm just going to come over and check on you guys really quick. Okay. All right, so as you can see here, here's the ecliptic. So this is the line that the zodiac crosses. As you can see, we have Scorpio starting right here. Ophiuchus starting right here. Serpens is its own thing. It's the serpent in its grasp. We also talked a lot about serpens during our last video during the Scorpio moon, because it was conjunct the main star in that system, which starts with a U and it's really long. And I also, guess what? I can pronounce it. So I need to learn how to pronounce all these things, though. I will. These are all just things I read in books, and now I have to try to say it to people. I'm like, how do you say this word? So Scorpio falls underneath this entire activated like human. We can't even get to this point until we address this. So let's talk about the debate. If you look into Ophiuchus, you'll see that people started talking about it around 2011. Started talking about how it cuts through the ecliptic, how it should be used. It has always been known about. Ancient astronomers have known about it since like the classical era. It's one of the main 88 constellations that are used by Ptolemy, and it is used a lot in occult symbolism. I would have liked to have dived deeper into the a lot of like occult art that is definitely referencing it, but we just don't have enough time. So astrologers, or a branch of astrologers, started trying to utilize it around 2011. I'm not sure when the actual like system of 13 sign astrology came out. It's sometime after 2011. I couldn't find a definitive date, but that's when people started working with this, and you started seeing things on like YouTube or stuff about it. In 2017 is when NASA came out, which they do quite often, trying to, and they used to just kind of reference the sidereal zodiac and be like, oh, astrologers are stupid. They're the stars have moved and they don't even know it, and so astrology is fake. And they did that all the time. In 2017, they used Ophiuchus to make their point, and people went crazy, and it had a big revival of like 13 sign astrology around that time as well. And then in 2020, this year, NASA came out and said, actually, we don't believe that. We didn't say that. I don't know what that was about, even though they did say it. So I don't really know why they came out again with another statement in 2020, which brought the debate all up again. And all the astrologers came out making all their statements as to why 13 sign astrology is stupid. And I do not necessarily agree with their reasoning behind it. While I don't feel it necessary to use, and we'll talk more about like the number 13 and how it's sacred and things like that in a little bit, their reasoning behind it often shows that they don't really understand it. So we will talk about that too. But before we talk about precession, which is why Ophiuchus is here now, and the concept of the 13th sign, we're going to talk about the two zodiacal systems. The Babylonians, so let me see here. Okay, so this is a depiction of the two zodiac cycles. The red one is the tropical zodiac, and the blue one is the sidereal zodiac. We do not have 13th sign here, but we will get to it in a moment. We have different systems because we had a split. We had a split occur in a polarity split here in the world. And we're going to dive deep into that. So when you look at the astrology, the traditional tropical astrology, it originated in Babylonia about 3,000 years ago. And that was when the signs aligned with the stars. And they started to calculate this. Now, it wasn't ever perfect. We didn't even really get perfect astrology software until very recently. And these black hole points that I'm going to talk about, we didn't even really know existed until really until 2015 when we got the photo. But 2002 and also like in the 50s, we got some radio information that came through. But for the most part, these are things we didn't really know existed. But we, for some reason, started astrology when the cardinal axis aligned perfectly with our two black holes, which align here at the autumn equinox and align with the vernal equinox. And then it activates here at the winter solstice, which also aligns with the summer solstice. This is the galactic center. This is the super galactic center, but we're going to get more into that later. Since then, we have experienced what is known as the precession of the equinoxes. So if you look here at the Earth's axis, you can see how it is spinning. This is the spin of the Earth's axis, but it's also spinning. I wish I could show you my hands here, but it's also spinning in a great circle, a 2000, about a 26,000 year circle. We're going to actually get into math later because it blew my mind and I made some crazy connections. But for right now, the point I want to make is because of this precession of the equinoxes, the stars have shifted. Around the time that the zodiac was created, we saw an Eastern version take form and a Western version take form. We also saw a split occur amongst like belief systems between like a solar masculine dominated like civilization versus like a patriarchal feminine dominated lunar civilization, which is in the East. Before, I'm trying to follow along with my notes and I'm just saying things that are like for other slides. So bear with me, guys. I don't even know how to explain how much information I'm about to throw at you. So the Babylonians were fully aware that Ophiuchus fell in there and they omitted it, and so did the regular sidereal zodiac. And I think that this occurred to occult this information, and I do believe that unfortunately it was for a good reason, because humanity had just fallen after Atlantis and this information can easily corrupt. So that is one of the things that I wanted to mention here when we were talking about NASA. When I was tuning into like, why would NASA all of a sudden come out and say this? What is behind them? Because NASA is an occult organization, very much so. So why would they all of a sudden say this? And what came through for me is that they want you to bite the apple. This is literally how it came through. They want you to bite the apple before you're ready, because when you do, you're more easily corrupted. So this is why I have a hard time with this information being as widely available without a lot of preference behind it, without a lot of like warning labels. I have the same sort of problems when it comes to like Kundalini yoga and certain breathwork techniques, because I don't feel this energy should be activated lightly, because it can be used to harm or to heal. And we're going to get more into that. So that was something I was supposed to be said with this slide. What is happening? Why won't it go to the next one? Okay, so back to the sidereal and the tropical zodiac. So the sidereal zodiac defines the signs relative to their apparent movement backwards, the apparent movement of the fixed stars in a backwards fashion. So as you can see, it is moving backwards. Here is the start of the spring equinox at 0 degrees of Aries. And at this time in the sidereal zodiac, we're actually in Pisces. That is moving in a backwards fashion because that is how the stars rotate. So that's how the sidereal zodiac is, it moves 1 degree every 72 years relative to the movement of the celestial sphere here, which is caused by us moving in this 26,000 year circle. Veda is actually very complex. So while they no longer align with these energetic points, which have a lot to do with why these signs are the way they are. Libra is the sign of balance because it occurs at the autumnal equinox, when our light and dark are of equal balance. Aries is the sign of initiation because it's spring, when things are reborn. They have a lot to do with the energy surrounding around the seasons, as well as the constellations, which have since moved. Vedic astrology, to make up for this like lack of seasonal energy, they actually have countless different ways of different order to calculate a lot of things. They break these all up into multiple, like what we would call whatever, I can't pronounce that word either, but different sections, and they're called, how do I pronounce? Lunar nakshatras or something like that, which I thought was written right here, but I can't find it. The vernal equinox shifts. We have the age of Aquarius. Nakshatras. I'm close, but I'm not right as to how to say that word. But I'm sure somebody has probably already written it in the chat. And they actually use up to like 27 constellations that fall along the zodiac, that all have different energies about them. They use like the general sign. So like, let's say for spring equinox, it would be in Pisces. So they use that general sign, but then they have like this whole backdrop of other stars that they use, which ironically is kind of similar to what I do because I use so much fixed star astrology. So when you are thinking about these two different systems, think of the tropical is tied to the seasons and where the constellations were at the time that this started. And the sidereal zodiac is tied to the constellations as they move, as the precession moves through the ages. But we are going to touch on that because that was one of the downloads that came through for me. So their interpretations also differ extremely. I actually watched a lot of YouTube videos from sidereal Vedic astrologers who are actually quite angry and mad at this revival of this like zodiac and people trying to use it with Western like interpretations. Like, let's say they just, okay, I'm going to switch to a sidereal wheel, but I'm still going to read every constellation the way I would read Pisces in tropical, or the way I would read Aquarius and tropical, because apparently it's quite different, which is how they catch all these nuances that that they do. So they also are way more based on the moon. So when we in the West ask, what is your sign? We're usually referring to your sun sign, unless you're an astrologer and you want like your big three. But for the most part, we're referencing your sun sign. And in Vedic astrology, it is way more based on the moon. And that is the split that we really see here, is between the feminine and the masculine. So should I next slide for this? Or yeah, I think I should go to the next slide. Okay. Oh no, where's my picture? Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Ah! This, I have to have this picture because it's like the one that's going to help me make all my points. When I found this one, it helped connect so many dots. Okay, there, it's back. I know you guys can't see the thing because I exited out of it, so just give me 1 second while I put you back. Share screen, Chrome tab. I also am not trying to claim that I really know a lot about Vedic astrology. Most of what I learned, I have learned more recently, and it has opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I am going to start utilizing it in my own practice, but in a strange way. So just give me a second here and make sure you guys are back over here. Show in the screen. Okay. You guys should be able to hear me. Yeah, the disclaimer, I'm actually going to talk more about that too, Kelly, because that's a lot of what's been coming through for me, is that this is sacred knowledge that is just tapping into pure energy, and it can be used for harm as well as good. And a lot of those downloads came through from watching Kung Fu Panda with my kids yesterday, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so I'm not even going to go over all these notes because it's so much. So just let me figure out what's the next thing I want to say to you. Okay. So let's talk about the math of precession. And this, when I found this online, it actually helped me connect so many fucking dots. It's amazing. So we're going to work with this picture for a second. And I have a bunch of stuff here that I want to read. Okay, so on the inside of the tropical zodiac, in the middle, we have the sidereal zodiac. And on the outside, we have the 13 sign zodiac. You can see, I can't believe they labeled it with like all my favorite things. This picture like lit me up. So as you can see, we have the super galactic right here. We have, which aligns with the vernal equinox and the autumnal equinox. We have the galactic center right here, which is cross. This is where the seasons are. And then you can see that they have the 4 royal fixed stars, which are considered the archangel stars, highlighted as well. And by reading a lot about 13 sign astrology, I did see on the majority of pages that they do revolve a lot around these fixed stars, which might be fair reason as to why I am one of the reasons why I am turned off by 13th sign astrology, because I'm just don't really trust them. And it might also have something to do with the fact that all my points, my planets align with this cardinal axis and these black holes. So I'm definitely fixed in this system. Due to precession, the stars have shifted. They've shifted this way. They're shifting this way. I'm going to throw some math at you here. So the precession is considered a great year. It's the length of time that it takes our planet to wobble around its axis. So the wobble is caused, they say, from the gravitational pull of both our moon and our sun. So that, again, is that polarity. It's the masculine and the feminine pulling at the earth and making it do this big, giant circle. And it takes roughly, actually not roughly, I did the math, the exact length of a great year is 25,772 earthly years. Because the stars move 1 degree every 72 years. I physically did the math. I did 360 times 72, and you get that number. You actually get 25,920, but for some reason it's off by a little bit. I couldn't really find out why, but everywhere else had like a little bit like different numbers. So I did the actual math and I got 25,920, but when you look online, which is closer to 26,000, but when you look online, they'll tell you it's 25,772. Now, it will take, this is one of the downloads that I had, and I'm going to lay it on you guys. Okay, so it will take 26,000 years for the stars to rotate all the way around here back to where they were when the zodiac started, back to where it started. So if you look and see right now, the vernal equinox is in Pisces. We are in the age of Pisces. This giant circle that our planet makes on its axis, I feel, is what is tracking our ages. I believe right now we are in the age of Pisces. I do not believe we are in the age of Aquarius yet, but we will be entering it. And when I had that download, I did some Googling. I'm not the first one to make this connection. Other people have. And I did some research as to when the vernal equinox is going to enter Aquarius. And then when I was about to do that, I noticed that this, and if you guys remember my Draco video, which you can find on YouTube, when I did the moon that was aligned with Alpha Draconis, we talked a lot about the cross, and how there's like a false light cross as well, like a polarized light cross. And we talked a lot about the cross and the serpent, which we're going to talk about more tonight. And I noticed that this cross, so here's the cardinal cross, which aligns with the black holes. And then there is this fixed cross that used to be in the fixed, well, they're still in the fixed signs. Actually, this one's moved into Ophiuchus, and the other ones are still in the fixed signs. In the tropical zodiac, they have all moved into mutable signs. They're no longer fixed. But I noticed that the zodiac is moving this way. And once the spring equinox is in Aquarius, I believe that is when the age of Aquarius is going to start. And what we're waiting for is for these polarized light archangel stars to meet the black holes. Once, do you guys see this one's going to rotate there? This hit me earlier today. This one, Regulus, will align with the supergalactic center. Antares will align with the galactic center. Fomalhaut, which is a star in the Pisces constellation, which, well, it falls in Pisces right now in tropical, will align with the supergalactic center in opposition, and Aldebaran will align with the galactic center in opposition. And it seems like they will all occur around the same time. Now, I can't find the exact date when this is going to occur, but what I feel the downloads that I was getting about this was these are black holes aligning with that false light matrix, and this is when we truly become one. I have some things here about the age of Aquarius that I just want to read that I found in my excursions. So the age of Aquarius begins when the vernal equinox point moves out of the constellation of Pisces and into Aquarius, but there's no definitive answer as to when this will be. An equinox is the date in the year when the day and night seem to be of equal length. There are 2 equinoxes every year, one around the 21st of March, which is this one, and one around the 21st of September, which is this one. It is common custom to call the first one the vernal spring equinox and the second one the autumnal equinox. The age of Aquarius is not part of this is from an astronomy website. The age of Aquarius is not part of astronomy. It's an astrological age, which occurs because of a cyclical motion of Earth known as the precession of the equinoxes, which causes the identity of the pole star to change over time. The cycles of precession last, this guy says 25,800 years. Like I said, the numbers are always off by a little bit. And there are 12 constellations in the circle of the zodiac. So roughly every 2,150 years, the sun's position at the time of March or the vernal equinox moves in front of a new constellation. The age of Aquarius begins when the March equinox point moves out of the constellation Pisces and into the constellation of Aquarius. But when will that be? There is no absolute answer. People really have been arguing about this for a very long time, but the International Astronomical Union, which astrologers, we get all of our information in our software programs from astronomers. So we really do depend on them for the specifics and the mathematics. According to the International Astronomical Union, the March equinox will cross over the constellation in the year 2597. And I did the math, so that means we still have 577 years to go before we technically are in the age of Aquarius. And then I wrote here, oh my God, I'm such a dork. And then I wrote here, I was like, so now we should check and see when the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, because peace will guide the planets and love will steer the stars. I wonder what time around that year those alignments happen, because that would be interesting to find out. But anyway, I'm a nerd. So in addition to this 26,000 year great year, we also have another system which we'll never see play out, but that's a 230 million year great year, which is the length of time it takes our solar system to rotate around the galactic center, which it doesn't really pertain to what we're doing here, but I thought I would throw it out there. So let me see what I got here. That's not relevant. Okay, so before I dive into the 13th sign and stuff that has come through for me, I'm just going to come over here and check the chat really quick. Head exploding. Okay, so yep, and Priyanka says it's also the Mayan long count calendar. Yeah, and I had that in like my big notes. I had to really condense this. There is so much stuff I had to take out. They took me down. Like this video realistically should have been like 10 videos. And yeah, I'm just gonna continue because I have a lot of information here. Okay, so if you ask a regular mainstream astrologer, what do you think about 13th sign astrology? They are going to tell you astrology is based off mathematics. Astrology is based off of a division of a circle, 360 degrees by 12. That is how we get all of the aspects. That is how we get the degrees. That is how we get everything. Now, these astrologers haven't actually looked at 13th sign astrology because, and 13th sign astrology must also know this at some level because they leave the house system as 12. So they would still have 12 houses. And then they have 13 signs go around the outside, which then would be divided also by aspects because aspects divide signs and they divide houses. Now, the way aspects work is we have a conjunction, which is 1 point. It's at 1 point, two planets conjunct each other, which is at a 0-degree angle. We have, which is a division of a circle by 1. We have an opposition, which is a division of a circle by 2. We have a trine, which would divide a circle by 3, and they all fall in the same element, often, ideally. That's how trines work. Yes, anyway. You could have a square, which is a division of a circle by 4, and then sextiles divide a circle by 6. And these are the most used astrological aspects and like the basic mathematics behind astrology. These are also divided into air and fire and earth and water, which are positive and negative polarities. And when we talk about Ophiuchus later, you'll see how I feel like he doesn't fit into this because he is all of this and more. So I never felt the need to kind of put him in there. And the math is super sacred, and the math of the number 13 is also super sacred, and I feel like it transcends this. So those are just my personal downloads. I do know people who practice this. I have some very, very close astrologer friends who really find a lot of value in 13th sign astrology, and I'm not here to say that it doesn't work. I'm just saying how it is for me. So I did want to say that the way these break up is we see our elements and we see our modes. So when we divide the circle by 3, we have 3 different modes. We have cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And we have 4 signs in each one of those because 12 divided by 3 is 4. So we have, when you divide it by 3 modes, you get 4 elements. When you divide it by 4 elements, you get 3 signs that fall in each of those. It's super divinely laid out in that division of 12. So what's the next slide here? Okay. I guess we'll talk a little bit more over here before we go over there. Okay, so my personal beliefs about Ophiuchus is that it finds you, and that prematurely activating this energy is dangerous. Like I said before, I believe the same thing when it comes to like Kundalini yoga and breath work, and just activating this energy in general when you're in a low vibration is very dangerous, and you can be very easily corrupted and used for inverted spiritual matters, where you are being used by lower astral entities, rather than or having to like sacrifice spiritual energy in a plethora of ways to then manifest things for yourself. It becomes dangerous. So that's my main belief about this system, is that I don't think it should be put in there, because I feel like you really have no business tapping into any of this until you deal with Scorpio. And in 13th sign astrology, Scorpio is so minimized. Really is so minimized. Scorpio is where so much of the transformation happens. And if you are in those lower scorpionic energies and you start to tap into this Ophiuchus energy before you are ready, it's extremely dangerous, and it's extremely dangerous energy where you will be playing with literal fire that you're not prepared for. So the sun is in the sign of Sagittarius from November 21st to December 21st. But in the present day sky, the sun is technically in front of the constellation of Ophiuchus from about November 30th to about December 18th. Again, the numbers online are different. I don't actually have a 13th sign wheel in my software, so I couldn't actually find the accurate dates. I tried. This is what the internet says. So after it finishes traveling through Ophiuchus on December 18th, it then comes into alignment, the sun comes into alignment with the galactic center before it enters Sagittarius. Our connection to this point and the level of transformation that happens in Scorpio dictates how the rest of the signs manifest for us. So this is another one of the personal downloads that I have that has come through for me on how the rest of these things play out. So everybody has certain things that is just like universal. All right. So Aries is the sign of the self. Everybody has a self and a personality, regardless of your circumstance. This is something that you physically have here in this reality. You don't have to do anything to get it. It's just fucking there. Taurus rules like our foundation, our resources, and things like that. Whether you have resources or don't have resources, you have this energy in your life. Everybody has physical things around them that help them move through this reality. Gemini is the sign of communication. Everybody communicates, whether you communicate well or poorly. Everybody has communication and immediate environment, which is also what Gemini rules. Cancer rules the home and our early life, something that everybody has an early life if they got into a later life. And they also have some place, whether they call it a home or it's just a temporary residence that changes a lot, or it's just a spot. There's some place that they have where they can lay their head at night. Even if it is a bench, this would still be falling under Cancer. Leo, this is our creative expression and our ego, something that we all very much have. Virgo is the sign of daily tasks and responsibilities, duties, things like that, all the little things that we have to do to get through life. It's also the sign of service. All these other things have other manifestations that when we come back around, we'll see how they activate again. But for the most part, everybody has daily tasks. Everybody's seeking balance, whether they know it or not, and they all have personal relationships. And then here's where things really start to change. So we talked about, now again, this is all personal downloads. This is a working theory that I'm all not tied to in any way, shape, or form. But we talked a lot about Scorpio in our last video and the transformation that occurs from all the totems, right? We talked about the lower energies of the Scorpion, transmutation that occurs when you move into the eagle and then the phoenix. So if you're in those lower energies, the Scorpion or the eagle, the way these things often manifest can manifest a multitude of ways. Now, if you've moved to the phoenix, it'll manifest the other way, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So once you move into Sagittarius, after you've hit the Ophiuchus energy, which is also going to be falls through here as well. It falls in Sagittarius. The galactic center is at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. Once you have gone through this transformation and started to integrate this serpent that really happens around this celestial point, things start to manifest differently for you. So here in Sagittarius, if you're in the lower energies, this is gonna manifest as like religion, fixed dogmatic belief systems, being extremely arrogant and not really willing to see other people's points of views. While if you have ascended to that level of understanding, this is where you really start to dive into philosophical exploration and teaching and healing, which ties into the Ophiuchus energy and that Chiron energy as well. Now, as we move into Capricorn, if you're in that lower energy, I'm going to read my notes after. I'm just going to try to go through this. I do have this written down. When you move into Capricorn, if you're in that lower energy, you are focused on money and success. But if you're in the higher octave and you've ascended, you are focused on your mission and your purpose. That is what you are driven by. In Aquarius, the higher octave is focused on like humanitarianism and pushing the humanity forward through brotherhood and unity, while the lower octave is like really focused on ideals and dangerous technological advancements. And Pisces, the higher octave is that magic and spirituality and really tapping into the unseen and traveling the world of the cosmos, while that lower octave is escapism and victimhood and what else did I write here? Delusions and like false light energy. So that's how I kind of see this happening. But if people know that this is here, they will literally bypass all the work here. Like, I mean, you guys have to know and be able to understand with that. Like in the beginning of my awakening, I was not, or like in the beginning of getting into this, like if I were to first start in and get into astrology, like what did you really want to first do when you started getting into this realm? I was buying crystals to open my third eye. I was trying to open my crown. I was trying to astral project. I was trying to connect to aliens in my mind. I was trying to get all these psychic activations, and I was not trying to deal with my shadow or deal with my trauma or process my unconscious mind. Like that was what I was thrown into. And then through dealing with all of that is when Ophiuchus came to me and I was able to then tap into that energy. If it had come to me at a different time in my life, as somebody who has past life connections to Atlantis, I've had past life remembrances of being part of the people responsible for hiding this knowledge after the fall so that it wouldn't get into the wrong hands again and lead to the big destruction that it did, dark magic, things like that. And because of the initial hiding and secrecy of this information, from that stemmed the mystery schools. And then from there, things like the Masons, secret societies, and inevitably the Illuminati all came because of that original occulting of this information, and inevitably still fell into the wrong hands, because that's what happens when you hide things. And now I feel that, like, many of us who are here to uncover these truths are also the ones who helped hide them to begin with. So my point is, I don't think this should be part of it yet. I think you have to work up to it, through like an initiation process, a death and rebirth, a phoenix moment, a dark night of the soul, and then it comes to you. Let me just check and see if you guys are there. I hope I'm making sense. Okay, you guys are still with me. Same amount of people watching. Okay, so let's talk numbers, math, and sacred geometry. So before we do that, I just want to look at the signs I had here. I mean, the notes I had here under that last slide. So I talked about that. We talked about how the transition of it through the signs, and I think I did pretty good of breaking down all the notes there. So I just have written here, and this came to me through watching Rick Levine's last video with Astrology Hub, which was all on sacred geometry, and it literally came out like 2 days ago, and I had to message him and be like, dude, you just literally helped me tie so many dots together. Everything you just said was like all rabbit holes I've been in, and I love you, you magical wizard. But I just wrote here, it's secret, it's hermetically sealed. This is a hermetic tradition of as above, so below. Hermetically sealed means it's sealed and you can't get in unless you're in. It's kind of like what Rick says, like, you don't know until you know. And if you had come to me with this Ophiuchus analogy before I was even ready to grasp it, I would have heard like magic, occult power, like I would have taken it wrong. You can't fully grasp it until you've been shown your shadow. And until then, it's dangerous territory. It's just what I keep getting. Every time I tap into it, I just feel like you have to be prepared or you can be corrupted. So I wrote here, the split between East and West, 12 and 13, the sun and moon, the god and goddess. So that's really what I feel happened when, like, let's say Babylonian astrology started, and then Vedic astrology started, which actually is said to be much older. Is they polarized. One was a much more feminine culture in the East, very based around the serpent, while the in the West they're very focused around the sun and the masculine aspect. So I wrote here that 13th sign astrology is, in my opinion, is trying very desperately they are remembering this ancient knowledge just like the rest of us are, and are trying to incorporate it. But the way I see it is they're putting something that sits beyond. First of all, astrology is trying to take three-dimensional cosmos, which actually spans multi-dimensions, and put it on a two-dimensional piece of paper. So all astrologers say, and Rick says this all the time, is there's an immense amount of distortion in any sort of house calculation system. None of them have it right. I really am starting to feel that you really need to tie multiple systems together to start to get a bigger view. I definitely now am trying to incorporate more sidereal because I do feel it brings that feminine aspect back in. But what was I saying? Oh, that 13th sign astrology is trying to incorporate these, but they're trying to put it into a like fit it into the matrix when it is our exit point out of the matrix. All of which I believe. So I believe that astrology, when it started in these places, whether it started in India or in Babylonia, that this was Atlantean knowledge that existed pre-deluge, which if you look into pre-flood civilizations, they aren't just found in some mythical island in the Atlantic, but they span continents, whether it's Göbekli Tepe or Teotihuacan, whatever it may be. Actually, Teotihuacan, I believe, is after the flood. But whatever it may be, there are countless literal civilizations found under the sea or have been buried and excavated that are pre-Diluvian civilizations. That I believe was this civilization that we collectively know of as Atlantis that fell. And then the survivors from these civilizations then spread out with their own biased beliefs after the fall, after that split between dark and light, feminine, masculine, yin and yang, all of the different polarities. We could go on for eternity. And then they started their own civilizations, whether they were focused around the feminine goddess or the masculine god, or a pantheon of gods with a focus leaning one way or the other. They took their bias and they ran with it. And I think what we're doing here is we're trying to merge these two polarities back together. And the merge point is here at the Galactic Center. What did I say here? So I said that I feel that the rise in 13th sign astrology is a past life remembrance of this union and trying to unify it any way that we can. And the way we know how to do it is through signs and houses and things like that. But I think we are escaping. It is our entrance point out. So let's talk numbers. What is this? Why did I put this here? Okay. Did I put that in two places? That should be with the... Oh, we're trying to put I can't even read my own notes because I'm literally like typing these things at like 2 a.m. sometimes. I wrote here that we are trying to fit a tridecagon into a dodecagon shaped hole when it is so much more. What we have here is a dodecagon, yes. And it's a 12-sided figure. We're going to dive deeper into this. I found this image online, and I think that it's so great that you can see here that the figure is broken. I don't know why the artist decided to do this, but it works perfectly for the analogy that I'm trying to write here, because this Platonic solid, which we're going to get my math book out now. We're going to start reading a little bit about some Platonic solids and things like that. But this Platonic solid represents the universe. It represents ether, divine connection, spirit, and soul. It represents the full zodiac. It's a 12-sided figure made out of pentagons, which we're going to talk about the pentagon more later. But as you see here, it's broken. And the serpent is leading your way. Like, oh, I even see this as like the galactic center of that circle. But it's like literally broke this matrix and pointing to so much more. And I feel that like the Gnostics believe that the planets are archons that literally like control the matrix, and that the point of astrology is to learn how to exit this matrix and move out of these like planetary influences by becoming one with the source that created them to begin with. And I feel that the serpent helps us to break this mold and exit out through the Ophiuchus constellation. So what do I have here? We'll read that in a second. So when you look into the number 13, should I do that here? Okay. Number 13 is a prime number, meaning it is only divisible by itself and by the number 1. So while there isn't actually 13 houses in 13 sign astrology, there are 13 signs, which then would be divided by aspects, whether it's trines, squares, oppositions. It would be dividing that sacred number 13 into something else. And it's divine. It's not meant to be divided. I feel like I put this in the wrong order because I should be going on to a different slide. That's when we start to get into the number 13. Give me a moment here, guys. Bear with me. Okay. So the number 13 reduces to the number 4. Not only is it a prime number, but it's also a Fibonacci number, which makes it a divine number that resonates to the creation of everything. It resonates to the spiral of life and the source of literally all that is. Kelly had a really good post earlier that had a lot of symbolism about the number 13. I'm not really going to dive too deep into the symbolism here because that could be a video in and of itself. We're going to talk more about how it can like transcend this earthly realm. We know we have 13 moons a year. We know that it resonates with the divine feminine. We also have like it in a lot of myths, whether it's like Jesus's 12 disciples plus him, or some say Mary. Whether it's, but I think it's the union of the two of them, which is also what I think is going on in Ophiuchus with the serpent bearer and the serpent. I think it is the union of polarities, which would be him and Mary as one. We also have like King Arthur and the 12 Knights of the Round Table. You see 12 plus a 13, multiple, but plus like a higher 13, multiple times. Okay, bear with me while I grab this book. This is for the serpent. This is for the spiral. This is for the serpent. Okay, so I definitely did put the slides in the wrong. Give me 1 second. Astrology. Okay. So this dodecahedron, which is what I look at as the zodiac, that complete number of 12, the divine platonic solid of 12, represents ether. It represents the cosmos. It represents the soul, that as above, so below, as the cosmos, so the soul. But we're being pointed towards something even bigger than our seeable universe, because we're being directed towards the galactic center, and we don't fucking know what's on the other side of that. We're going to talk more about that here in a couple of slides. We have other platonic solids that resonate to the other elements as well, and these would all fall into astrology. I feel that Ophiuchus represents not only ether, but something even beyond, and the downloads that have been coming through for me have really also surrounded around the pentagon and the aspect in astrology known as a quintile, which is either a 72-degree angle or a 144-degree angle, but it's the division of a circle by 5. This is another Fibonacci number that leads to the creation of this spiral. And this is the only divine shape that really holds the Fibonacci sequence. So the number 13 brings a test. It brings suffering and death. It symbolizes the death of matter or to oneself and the birth to spirit. It is the passage to a higher level of existence. We're moving past the zodiac to something bigger and beyond. Like I said before, it resonates to the divine feminine archetype because that is the energy of creation, the power to create and destroy. This energy is within us all, whether you are a female or a male. We have this energy that we can tap into. I feel that it is a union of polarities, but then once you bypass the serpent and the man of Ophiuchus and you enter the galactic center, you are beyond that you are beyond the dualism, and you have come into union with that source energy. I wrote here, for me, when I was growing up, math was really fucking hard. Like, I was really, really, really bad at not astrology. I actually am pretty good at astrology. I was really bad at algebra. Even though I had really good grades in like middle school and high school. Early school was really hard, but I had good grades in middle school and high school. I still always failed math and had to go to summer school whenever we had algebra. It was so fucking hard for me. But the second we got thrown into geometry, um, it all made sense. I had like 174% in the class because I did like every extra credit assignment. And it literally, I wrote here, algebra seems like a straight up robot language, but geometry lit me the fuck up. That's what I have written in my notes. And now I kind of see why, because astrology is all about geometry. The universe is all about geometry. Our fucking creation is all about geometry. It's literally all about geometry. So, according to Rick's video, geometry literally means the measuring of the earth. Geo is earth, while sacred, so sacred geometry, sacred means of divinity. So we are moving past regular geometry and into sacred geometry. And that is when we start to tap into the divinity. I said it becomes sacred when we start tapping into something that is not of the earth. Astrology is therefore sacred geometry. I believe that was directly from Rick's video. I really recommend watching his last. It blew my mind, blew my fucking mind. The timing of it was just so perfect too. But the last Astrology Hub video on YouTube dives so deep into astrology as sacred geometry, and he talks a lot about the Fibonacci sequence, which we're talking about here as well. And he talks about how pattern, shape, and proportion, particularly the divine proportion, which is the golden mean that creates this spiral, is the basis for all life, all planetary movement. This is a secret Hermetic teaching that all the ancients knew, including like the Freemasons, who built all of their temples and churches and things like that to this divine proportion. And that it also connects to both Mercury and Thoth, which are the givers of truth. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that in a couple of slides. So apparently the 5-pointed star is the only shape that contains the divine proportion. So the downloads that I got about this is that astrologers do not use this aspect. This is considered a minor aspect. Let me go here because the next thing is about it. The quintile is considered a minor aspect. Most astrologers don't use it. And you could probably see why, because it literally would tap you into all your magic. So when the men who really created astrology tapped in, they were like, they probably use it in their personal practice when they used it for the kings and queens, but they, for the most part, took this one out and demoted it, kind of like they demoted Pluto. Rick is really big on aspects, and he's brought this one to my attention, and it is super freaking magical, and I've been using it very much in my practice. And I feel that these aspects are what starts to connect us to that energy, start to bring us to that otherworldly geometric call that the galactic center is calling from us. And the first way out of the matrix is through these quintiles. From there, it's your connection to Ophiuchus, and then from there, it's your connection to the galactic center, and then from there, it's your connection to the super galactic center. Which if you guys follow me, you'll know when all of those things are happening in the sky. So a quintile occurs when two planets are 72 degrees apart, and a biquintile occurs when two planets are 144 degrees apart. The 5-pointed star is the symbol of magic, and the 5-base quintile carries the energy of magic. And I would like to note, this one actually hit me pretty late. I added this one later, that the face of the dodecahedron is a pentagon. So this shape unlocks the matrix and opens you up to the number 13, to union with source. So if you see here, this dodecahedron, which is the symbol of the universe, the cosmos, the soul, all of its faces are the pentagon. So it's that 5-pointed star. That is what it's made out of. It's made out of fucking magic. And that's also how you're going to unlock it. It's through magic. Okay. So we talked about this. We talked about this. Okay, so let's talk about the number 13. So, well, before we do that, what do I have here? I have a little bit more notes. Did that? I said here the 5-pointed star can be used for good or evil. In the past, it was occulted and used by the elite. Now we take our power back. The dragon is not a beast to conquer. It's our friend, and it holds the keys to our ascension or our demise. And if you're not prepared, it will consume you. Everything was also, I put here, like, put in Latin. So if you didn't even know Latin and you only knew like Italian or whatever it is that you're back in the day when astrology was really, really, really starting to be occulted, you really needed to understand Latin to be able to tap into a lot of these secrets that were kept, like I said, through the mystery schools and in through secret societies and different orders, which may or may not had a decent views in the beginning, but definitely because power corrupts, fell farther. So I wrote here that 13 is a prime number. It's also a Fibonacci number. The divine proportion is an infinite number. So let's talk about the number 13 and the golden mean and the number that transcends the matrix. So 13 is considered to represent the concept of wholeness and is a symbol of unification, i.e., it's the 12, the dodecagon, in addition to one single and central point of symbolic concentration of the self in the form of human potential, with the observer positioned at the hypothetical center of the cosmos, along with the total number of sides of the polygon totaling 13. The tridecagon becomes the symbol of total transformation. The concept of unity is the centering force. The center is central to both the self and the cosmos, in which the observer shares its consciousness and has its being. The center is both inside and outside the self. It is the position for the symbolic transition into the next field, into the next dimension, and into the next universe. I want to click over. I have here 12 plus 1 equals 13. 13 plus 1 equals the fractal and the whole. And I'll explain this in a second. I just want to read this. An awareness of self as the center of a greater unity embodies the meaning and purpose in support of the hypothesis of singularity. The comprehension of self at the center of a holographic universe of one's own making brings with it moments of sudden revelation and insight. The one singular true center is the consciousness designed by oneself. Awareness of this fact is the essential ingredient that contributes to the equation, 12 plus 1 equals 13, which appears in the form of a dodecagon. 13 plus 1 symbolizes the geometry of a consciousness yet to be fully unveiled, apprehended, understood, designed, or experienced. Perhaps it is hidden in the geometry of a truer interpretation and understanding of nature. Example, fractal geometry. So the way I understand this is we have 12. Let's look at that as the zodiac. We have the 12 major archetypes of the zodiac and how they control the 12 major houses of our life. And it comes into the whole zodiacal wheel. Plus 1, that Ophiuchus energy that starts to take us outside of that matrix. That equals 13. This is a part of the whole. Okay, so here is a shape that is 13 sides. we have 13 sides plus the dot in the middle. The dot in the middle is the exact same thing as this shape that's 13 sides. Does that make sense? 13 plus 1 equals the fractal, so it equals the 13, and then it also equals the 1, which is the whole, because 13 is a prime number. It can be divided only by itself and 1. And it represents the fractalness of this hologram that we kind of call reality, is kind of how I see it. This I'm going to read here in a little bit, and you're going to see how this kind of ties together. But this geometric form, this fractal spiral, is the basis of all life, whether it's flowers, any sort of spin of weather or water or the cosmos, the galaxy. Everything is based on this same Fibonacci sequence of numbers and this divine proportion, which is like rounded up to 1.62, but it's an infinite number like pi that like continues on and on and on and on and on. Fibonacci numbers, I'm not really going to get too much into the math. If you guys want, I can do a whole video on like sacred geometry where we can dive deeper into this, but pretty much it's divine blueprint for creation. And we actually spin around the galactic center in this divine spiral. So I had a lot of these pieces of the puzzle. And I'm trying, as you guys can see, have a whole bunch of shit that is all little bits and pieces of it. And I have some more to share as well. But I was really, really, really stressing on how to like tie this all together. And I had my symbol book out because I was already looking up like Serpent, which we're going to read about in here too, and the caduceus, which is that like spiral serpent staff. And it literally just opened up to the page for spiral and the golden mean, and reading that, of course, was at 5:33. I wrote the time here because everything seemed to kind of come at divine timing. Really tied it all together. And a lot of the references in here are all things that we're going to actually talk about here in later slides. So I'm going to go ahead and just come check the chat, and then I'm going to read from this book. Am I making sense, guys? Are you guys following along with me? I feel like this is heavy knowledge that I'm not even fully understanding myself. He's like the crack in the matrix we can peek out of. Yes, Kelly, that is what I am definitely trying to make sense here. Okay, so this is from the symbol book, and we're reading about the divine spiral. A schematic image of the evolution of the universe. It is also a classical form symbolizing the orbit of the moon and the symbol for growth, related to the golden number, which is this Fibonacci number that we're talking about here, arising out of the concept of the rotation of the earth. In the Egyptian system of hieroglyphics, we're going to talk about how Ophiuchus ties a lot to Thoth and Egyptian mythology as well here, but and Hermes and stuff. But let me stay focused. Stay focused, Ellie. Where's my selenite? Okay. Okay, I'm glad you guys are picking up what I'm putting down because I'm trying. Okay, I'm going to start over. I'm going to drink some water. Okay. A schematic image of the evolution of the universe. It is also a classical form symbolizing the orbit of the moon and a symbol for growth related to the golden number, arising out of the concept of the rotation of the earth. In the Egyptian system of hieroglyphics, the spiral, corresponding to the Hebrew avu, denotes cosmic forms in motion, or the relationship between unity and multiplicity. Of especial importance in relation to the spiral are bonds and serpents. The spiral is essentially macrocosmic. The above ideas have been expressed in mythic forms as follows. From out of the unfathomable depths, there arose a circle shaped in spirals. Coiled up within the spirals lies a snake, a symbol of wisdom and eternity. Now, The spiral can be found in three main forms: expanding, as in a nebula, contracting, like the whirlwind or whirlpool, or ossified, like the snail's tail. In the first case, it is an active sun symbol. In the second and third case, it is a negative moon symbol. Nevertheless, most theorists, including Elaide, are agreed that the symbolism of the spiral is fairly complex. No shit, man. And of doubtful origin. Its relationship with lunar animals and with water has been provisionally admitted. Going right back to the most ancient traditions, we find the distinction being made between the creative spiral, rising in a clockwise direction attributed to Pallas Athene, and the destruction, which twirls around to the left and is attributed to Poseidon. As we have seen, the spiral, like the snake or the serpent or the Kundalini force of Tantra's doctrine, can also represent the potential center, as in the example of the spider's web. For that it may, the spiral is certainly one of the essential motifs of the symbolism of ornamental art all over the world, either in the simple form of a curve curling up from a given point, or in the shape of scrolls or insignias. Parkin observes in his prehistoric art that no ornamental motif seems to have been more attractive than the spiral. Ortiz suggests that, from a systematic point of view, the spiral is an emblem of atmospheric phenomenon and of the hurricane in particular. But the fact is that the hurricane, in its turn, is a symbol of secession from the creative as well as destructive functions of the universe. That is, of the suspension of the provisional but pacific order of the universe. He also points to the I think he means connection, but it's really spelled weird. Connection between breathing and the creative breath of life. He goes on to suggest that Voltut in ancient cultures was a spiral form symbolizing the breath and the spirit. It is for this reason that the Egyptian god Thoth, which is super connected to Ophiuchus, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. The Egyptian god Thoth is represented with a large spiral on his head. He also has the serpent staff. Finally, by virtue of its significance in connection with creation, with movement and progressive development, the spiral is an attribute of power found in the scepter of the Egyptian pharaoh, in the latus of Roman angers, and in the present-day walking stick. In addition to the above, it is also possible that the spiral may symbolize the relationship between the circle and the center, for the spiral is associated with the idea of the dance, and especially with primitive dances of healing and incantation. When the pattern of movement develops as a spiral curve, such spiral movements closely related to the pattern of the mandala and to the spiral form that appears so frequently in art from the Mesolithic era onwards, particularly in France, Ireland, and England. They're referencing like the Celtic spiral that we see on all the megalithic structures that align to all the dates that the sun is aligned with all these galactic centers, whether it's the super galactic center or the regular galactic center. May be regarded as figures intended to induce a state of ecstasy and to enable man to escape from the material world and to enter the beyond through the hole that Ophiuchus makes, through the hole symbolized by the mystic center. Striking examples of such spirals are found in all these places. So yeah, that passage, when I found that in there, really, really started to help connect a lot of the dots for me when it came to what I was, all these different downloads that I was bringing in. And it really has to do with this divine number, this Fibonacci sequence, the math of the universe, and the galactic center, which is what Ophiuchus is there to guide you to. But first, you really do have to unite those polarities within you. So real quick, I have my chart here because I did just want to talk about what is in here, why I have all these points in my chart, and how it kind of came through for me. So this little symbol right here is the galactic center that we're talking about right here, right now. And the main star of Ophiuchus falls at 21. Oh, no, I think actually at 23 degrees. I think it's actually perfectly conjunct my thing. What do I have here? 20, almost 23 degrees. So is where the main star lies. So I have my moon Uranus conjunction aligned perfectly with the head of Ophiuchus and conjunct the galactic center because it's only 3 degrees away. And then I also have my Chiron, which is said to, by a lot of astrologers, to rule Ophiuchus, but I think the galactic center does, in opposition to it. So I have all of this energy all working here together. It's super Ophiuchian. And then I also have the other black hole extremely activated in my chart, which falls at 2 degrees of Libra. I have my south node there, which is your point of past incarnation, conjunct Atlantis, the asteroid Atlantis, and also conjunct my sun. So I have that point as well. And there are 3 main black holes that I use in my astrology. The galactic center that we and all the other star systems in the Milky Way rotate around, the supergalactic center that the Milky Way and 27 other galaxies rotate around, and the Andromeda Vertex, which is one of the other galaxies that rotates around the supergalactic center. And it is the center, the black hole of the center of the Andromeda galaxy, which falls at 27 degrees of Aries. So I have my Jupiter there. So I literally have all 3 black holes. And I really feel that is a main part of my mission, is awakening the truth of these and how they hold us together and how they are our connection to so much more. So the way Ophiuchus, I really was trying to remember when I first heard of it, and I can't, but I assume it was, I feel like it was, you know what? I'm going to Google something really quick here. When did Roswell? Okay, so it was in early 2019, because that is when the new Roswell show came out. And they actually mention Ophiuchus in that show, and it was while I was in the rabbit hole. So that is why I remember. So it's like January 2019. And I had fallen, I'm not sure when I started really diving deep into like being an astrologer, but I know I had already been tapping into a lot of star systems. Like, if you guys have followed me for a while, you know, I really tapped into like all the fixed stars and black holes and things like that. And like found them, all the alignments in my chart, before I even cared about any sort of houses or what any of the fucking aspects meant in my chart. I just literally didn't care. And I was like diving into the crazy outside cosmic realm. And then I literally had to learn astrology. I didn't want to. I was like, oh, it's so boring. I don't want to. Can't I just focus on this stuff? But I felt like I had to learn it to be able to then like integrate it into this reality and like explain it to other people. So that's when I started to learn astrology. And I know I was in the Ophiuchus rabbit hole, and it was so synchronistic because it just came across my reality. And I had a fixed star program at the time, and I was diving into like fixed star alignments and starting to compile my astrology, my starseed astrology readings that I am going to have back up on my website, hopefully next month. And at that point, I still only really knew how to map them. And I had a general idea of like each of the energies, but each one came to me, and they came to me as the sun transited all of them, and all the downloads came through. Like right now, the sun is literally just entered Ophiuchus, and all of these downloads are coming through because that is how it works. And I was diving into that rabbit hole, and I was literally on my phone googling, diving into like, what is this hidden secret knowledge, blah blah blah. And I hear my kid in the other room literally say that word, blah blah, telling her dad yada yada, 13 sign, blah blah blah, Ophiuchus blah. And I came outside, I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, I'm writing a paper for school on this sign that was like taken out of the zodiac, and it's like this 13th sign, and NASA's talking about it. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? You're writing about that? I was like, I'm literally in the other room reading about it. And she was like, oh cool, blah blah blah. And I was really, everything in my life was synchronistic at that point. So I was just like, my mind was blown, but that was happening on a regular basis. And then that night I was watching Roswell. And that's where, in this new season of Roswell, that's like a redo of a 90s show, that's where they say that the aliens are from. And that same night, they like said the word Ophiuchus, and I was like, what the fuck? And so I dove even deeper into it. And then that's when I started really diving into like serpent symbolism. Oh, I wanted to put a bunch of pictures of like my artwork in these slides, and I forgot. I'll put them on Discord. But a lot of like the paintings and drawings that I was channeling during my awakening had a lot to do with serpents. But when you dive into like the starseed realm, you're just like met with like reptilians and negative entities and like all this stuff, and it wasn't jiving with the downloads that I was getting. And I was like getting really lost and like afraid that I was being like led astray, and just dove super deep into the occult and into symbolism and into mythology, and really trying to like not get the information from a blog post or like Ascension Glossary, which I have tons of problems with Ascension Glossary. I think it is a very dangerous website. But I wanted to go and find the information from its source. And that is when I just started to like dive in. And a lot of the way these stars come through to me is through like mythology and like my reality and like connecting dots. So the way I kind of look at the different zodiacal systems now is I kind of see like the tropical zodiac as being like astrology's birth chart. It's like the OG system that like is gonna work, and this is what the precession is like moving around and coming back to this point. And that like slower movement is like really the evolution of mankind through the ages, and we definitely need to know the energy that we're working with so that we can integrate that into this earthly realm, into this physical reality. And I kind of see like this tropical zodiac as like astrology's birth chart, and the the Vedic as like astrology's progressions. And I've been diving into progressions with Rick, and progressions are another way to look at the fractalness of our reality. And like I'm 33 years old, so my progress chart would be a chart of the sky 33 days from my moment of birth. And that is called a progress chart. And from that point in time, most planets have not moved, but like a lot of personal planets will have moved a little bit. Some planets may have gone retrograde or direct. And these are like the underlying energies of our life. And I really didn't dive into progressions. I had read about them in my astrology books, but I was like, that sounds dumb. That doesn't sound real. And then I looked at it, and it really is. It shows the fractalness of our reality and the way, particularly my Mercury transits, everything that happened through like my early learning years, big shifts. I can see this big period of my life when Mercury was progressed. My progressed Mercury was retrograde. And of course, everything was falling apart during those huge faction of my life. And technically, he's still retrograde, and he goes direct in 2024. And I already can feel him like starting into station. It's just crazy. It really is. So I really feel like that was the download that came through for me. I'm not saying that Vedic astrology is something different. Vedic astrology has its own realm of everything, and I have no business really telling you whether Vedic astrology works or not, because I don't even know all their interpretations. I don't know how it works. I haven't had a Vedic chart read. I'm really just looking at like how we can incorporate the sidereal zodiac of the stars with the tropical zodiac of the seasons. And I think that we can look at them as that underlying energy. It's more internalized. It's more something that not only we are working through, but like we're going to be like really working through this as a collective for quite a while as we tick along those 72 years. So I also feel that when I feel that this like polarization that we have felt since that like split occurred between the duality of in our reality between the like feminine, masculine, yin and yang and all of that. I feel that is really going to start to come into union as those fixed stars transit those black holes. That came through to me and hit me like a ton of bricks. We talked about that a couple slides back. I wrote it down here again, and I really do think that that's something significant. I don't know if anybody else has made that connection, but I think that it definitely is going to be a major reset point for all of us here. So now we're just going to get into like all my random downloads, because I have just like random things that have come through. This is like all stuff from like is going to be in my starseed full starseed report and things like that, about black holes and all different kinds of the galactic center, how Ophiuchus manifests, the energy between Orion and Ophiuchus and things like that. So I tried desperately, you guys, to try to put this in like a clear and concise, like a linear fashion, and I feel like I was sucked out of linear time, and it's just not possible. So you're getting it in bits and pieces the same way that I got it, and yeah, that's how we're going to do it. I'm going to check the chat really quick. This concept, I think, is why our government doesn't want us looking at the South Pole. Yes, and the South Pole, actually, I was watching a documentary on black holes last night, or I need to link it for you guys. It's on YouTube, and it was phenomenal. So much stuff came through for me through like the science and physics, and then like how that would work in like an astrological way. But Antarctica has one of the biggest electron telescopes pointed at the galactic center right now. Like that's what all, and it's a international research facility spanning all kinds of countries, most of which aren't really allies in like the real world, but seem to really work well together when it revolves around Antarctica. Okay, so like I said, I'm just going to read through here and then see what kind of spawns off, because this is all stuff. So Ophiuchus, oh, I'm not pointing at it. I need to point over here. So Ophiuchus is said to be the son of Apollo. So I have written here, and this is downloads that came through, that is the son of the sun god. You know, he's the son of the sun god. So it really does represent that like Christ consciousness. But then again, I think it could also represent the anti-Christ consciousness. And we see the serpent symbolism play a dual role. It is just, it's like Magic is magic. It's power, it's energy, it's frequency, it's vibration. It's fucking neutral. It can be used for either. And that's why I really do feel that, like, we don't want to bite that apple before we're ready, you know? Because it can heal or it can harm. We can use this energy to heal, or we can use this energy to harm, and it does corrupt. As you can see in the mythology, the basic mythology, he started playing with things he shouldn't. Bringing people back from the dead is necromancy. That is literal dark magic. So he started to use that power for things. I could do all kinds of spells, you know, I could do all kinds of money manifesting spells. I could do all kinds of love spells. I could do all kinds of shit, but I have a lot of past life remembrances from Atlantis of how magic was inverted. And just because I know I can do things doesn't mean they should be done. And I think that you have to go through the natural evolutionary process of finding this energy for yourself, because I don't think you can really learn how to use it properly without being initiated by this energy. I think if it's brought to you when you're in a lower mindset, you can be easily corrupted. That's the best way I can say it. I said that it is the point of both light and dark as one. It's pure magic once you get to the galactic center. But this Ophiuchus, it's that battle. You are battling between those polarities, hoping to come into that divine union and move forward. But it can give. It can give. What else we got here? So let's talk about the serpent and the cross, because I have a lot of downloads that have come through about this. Okay, so if you guys were with me for my Draco video, if not, I definitely recommend going and watching that, because I was already kind of in this rabbit hole but hadn't fully connected it to everything. I was connecting it to the Southern Cross, which is the constellation that sits at the Southern Hemisphere's pole, and the Draco constellation, which guards the Northern Hemisphere's pole star, and how it's as above, so below. I was talking about how churches, even though they demonize the serpent, they often use it paired with the cross together in most of their like statues or emblems, or like coats of arms, whatever it may be. They often use these two symbols together, even though it's demonized. Even like the Vatican means the divining serpent. That's what the Vatican means in Latin. But yet the serpent is very demonized in that religion. So this is still like a working theory. But the cross is this cross of the physical. It's this cross of Saturn. It's the cross of the material world. The 90-degree angle in astrology is where like things come into manifestation here into the real world, where things are initiated. The cross rules this 3D realm. It has like a monopoly on the matrix. We see the cross in the cardinal cross as well, and we also see it as the Southern Cross down below. And this is the iconography that you see often depicted with Ophiuchus. You see this cross, which could very easily symbolize those 4 directions of the seasons and the black holes. The serpent is those transiting stars. I'm going to show you this in a second. And then this is how we ascend out of this realm. So this, I had to take this screenshot. This was in a video that I was watching, and when I saw it, it made so much fucking sense to me. This cross with the circle with the cross symbolizes the 4 seasons. It symbolizes those balance points of the spring and autumn equinox when light and dark are at balance. It also symbolizes the extreme polarities when dark is the darkest, when the hours of darkness are the most and when the hours of light are the most. And then we have this serpent slowly moving. I see every 1 degree every 72 years. This is our procession. This is our great year. This is our evolution as a collective. Humanity is evolving just like the snake is shedding its skin as it moves along here. And then, so we have the fixed tropical zodiac here. We have the great year, the precession of the equinoxes, and the sidereal zodiac here, slowly moving. And then we have the fixed stars. This is 7 stars. It's probably depicting the Pleiades, but I read this as the entire celestial sphere of fixed stars. Like I said, there are 88 constellations, and I utilize many that don't even sit on the ecliptic like Ophiuchus does, whether it's the Pleiades or Arcturus or Sirius or Draco. I utilize all of these because these are all aspects of the self. And these are all things that we're working to integrate. And the more we integrate, the more multidimensional we become. And these are the two big ways of tracking that energy, cycles of time. So again, these are just random theories and downloads that have come to me. I don't know if anybody else is saying any of these things. This guy was talking about something else with this picture. And this symbol is the symbol for Earth and the 4 seasons. And in this video, he was saying it was a symbol for the sun, which is not true, but whatever. He had good, valid information in parts of his video. But this picture right here really hit home for me. And I actually took this screenshot in between scenes. It was changing from this crossed one to the other one. I just wanted to get a symbol of the cross, and then I had points I was going to say about that, and then I was going to get a symbol of get a picture of this, but then they like merged, and it was exactly what I was going for anyway, and I was like, oh, thank you. So like I said, things come into being at the 90-degree angle. At a conjunction, an opposition, or a square is when that conflict or that trigger happens to make things manifest. A new moon, a full moon, a quarter moon, or any sort of zodiacal movement of planets through their cycles, whether it's a Jupiter-Pluto cycle, a Saturn-Pluto cycle. We're having a Jupiter-Saturn cycle, a new one start here on the winter solstice. That will be a conjunction point that's going to initiate a whole new story that then is going to play out in a 4 chapter way. Okay, so I talked about the cross. I talked about that. Things come in degrees and 90 degrees. We talked about the quintiles already, so I guess I don't need to talk about that here, but I said that the number 5 and those quintile aspects are really what start to lead us to this number 13 and out of here. So really, if you go and look and see if you have any septiles or quintiles in your chart, both of these are really otherworldly aspects. Quintiles are the ones who make the 5-pointed star and really help tap you into your magic. And these are aspects that you might not know exist in your chart because most softwares aren't they aren't programmed to run that aspect. So go to a website and you're going to have to go to like advanced calculation and go and literally pick some of these more minor, so-called minor aspects to add in to see if you have any of these. So the serpent and this constellation of Ophiuchus is really big in Egyptian cosmology, and it symbolizes the pillar of light in their society, and also the character known as Imhotep, which is very similar to Ophiuchus or Asclepius, and he was a physician, a very wise, Kemetic physician. He's also said to have built the oldest step pyramid in Egypt, but I really think that's one of the newer pyramids. I think that the Great Pyramid was probably the oldest, but and we don't know who built that. But mainstream archaeology credits him with the creation of that like step pyramid that kind of looks like it's falling apart in Egypt. So this energy is also connected to healing. Like I said, it's connected to Chiron, Sagittarius, and Scorpio. But like I said, I really feel it is ruled by the Galactic Center and not with like an asteroid or a moon or something like that. I also don't feel like it would only govern a fraction of a house in a chart. I feel like it governs the entire chart. So that's another reason why I feel like 13th sign astrology doesn't really resonate with me, because I do think it is like the exit point. And I don't want to try to like put him into the system. So before we get into this chart, I did have like more notes on this last chart, I guess. So this transmutation that occurs at Ophiuchus really represents both physical and spiritual healing. It's healing for the soul. To heal means to become whole. This is literally where we become whole. It is not part of the whole, but it is rather all in its entirety. This is where you are cleansed of the illusions and connect back to divine source. And I wrote right here that one came to me at 3:33 a.m. I have like times written in here, especially for some of these right here. So Ophiuchus is also heavily connected to Thoth, Atlantis, like we talked about before, all hidden ancient knowledge because of the serpent, Hermes, Asclepius, and then Horus as well. Horus is the uniting of the divine feminine and the divine masculine of Isis and Osiris as one. Of course, still a man because it's a patriarchal story, but you kind of get the idea that they were going for there. But still always had to make it masculine based. So both the serpent and the formation of the cross symbol was attributed to Thoth. Cycles. The snake represents, so this is what I had here. This came to me at 11:55 p.m. So, and I already kind of talked about it, how the snake symbolizes cycles. It symbolizes transits, progressions, and the sidereal zodiac, while the cross represents the seasons, black holes, and the fixed stars. Fixed stars would be here, actually. So I didn't mean to say fixed stars. So like Ophiuchus should be put into that system. How do I use these energies? And I use it through fixed star astrology. So fixed star astrology is actually the most ancient form of astrology. Before anything else, fixed star astrology was used. Before the planets were even tracked, stars were used. Rising of stars, the setting of stars, the alignment of stars. Stars were what guided people. So I use fixed star astrology and I pair it with tropical zodiac. And now I'm definitely also going to be adding a lot of sidereal in as well, but more, like I said, is that like undertone as like how things manifest as more of like an internal basis when it comes to like maybe my own natal chart, and then on like a greater cosmic scale when it comes to this great year and this procession. Stuff. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So when you look into Ophiuchus online, you either see it in one of two ways for the most part. There are astrologers who are kind of closer to what I believe, but for the most part, you either see it as a man with a serpent, and now he's like a healer becoming a god. And this is usually like some feminine aspect that needs to be like tackled or something like that. Or you see it as like the rise of the divine feminine and like an activation of like this repressed feminine aspect that was like hidden away and occulted. And I don't agree with either. While I do feel that we need to incorporate the feminine aspect, and that was part of what was hidden, this pendulum swing of polarization from like so patriarchal to like so matriarchal is not the way forward. We've been here, we've done this, civilizations have fallen because of it. We've been here, we've done this, civilizations have fallen because of it. This is an integration of both. Unifying it. Okay, I said that. So unchecked feminine power is just as toxic as unchecked masculine power, if not more so, because that is where magic resides. Magic resides within the feminine, and we all know how that could be occulted and used for harm. This Minoan goddess here also is another symbol of Ophiuchus, but with a feminine archetype instead. But you could interject a man here very easily. As you can see, she's holding two serpents, which is a little bit closer to the way the stars actually look, because it does look like it's split into two. It looks like it is the person integrating these two aspects of the self, instead of this occurring between a man and a woman, or a feminine and masculine aspect. It's the person, whether it's a male or a female, integrating these aspects within the self, integrating the shadow, accepting expanded consciousness, integrating the feminine aspect and the masculine, which way you need to go. Some people need to accept more of their masculine characteristics and really start to step fully into that like light and power through action and things like that, while other people need to really tune more into their feminine and internal intuitive abilities. Wherever you may fall on this, I think this picture here does a better job of showing how it is us and both of these fall within us. Let me see. I wrote here, for me, it's not the snake, it's not the man or even the woman. It's the galactic center, something we didn't even know technically existed until 2002. And we really still was theoretical until about 2015, when we got a picture of the super galactic center. This is literally all new to us. No one really knows what this is. It's a journey. And it's a journey of your own understanding of source. Nobody can tell you what the truth is around this energy. We all are just tapping into these archetypes for ourselves and diving into the rabbit hole. We are on a journey of discovery, and it has truly just begun, is what I wrote right there. So let's talk about union, the galactic center, source, and the serpents. I'm just going to come check on you guys really quick. Are you all there? I need to drink something. Okay, I'm just making sure you guys are still here. This is getting really long, and I know I had a card reading I was going to do, but I think I'm going to not do it. It's getting pretty late, but I'm doing the best I can. Love you guys. Okay, so union within and to source, the galactic center. So this picture here, I think, describes it perfectly. Okay, you see the woman, like I said, easily this could be a man. It doesn't fucking matter who you are. Here, this person is very androgynous looking. You can't really tell if this is a man or a woman. And then you see the feminine aspect on one side and the masculine aspect on another, and the serpent intertwined, the two serpents. And this is the union. This is the union and connection to the source, to the galactic center. This, again, the symbol that you see everywhere, the caduceus, I believe it's called. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but it is the intertwined serpents, and it usually represents healing, often enlightenment, and that is where we ascend above, ascend beyond with the wings, I guess you could say. So it's also, this constellation is very easily associated with Mercury, Hermes, or Thoth, all of which are said to be the keepers of sacred hermetic knowledge, hidden knowledge, forbidden knowledge that you really can't grasp until you grasp. It could be right in front of your face, and if you can't even grasp some of the aspects of your own consciousness, like lower aspects of your consciousness. If you haven't even worked through some of the aspects of the self, it's really, really, really hard to grasp some of this knowledge. And these characters are all said to be the keepers or the bestower of said knowledge. And it all also corresponds to Ophiuchus as well. So I have some stuff that I want to say here about the Galactic Center before we go on to the Serpent and sacred knowledge. So, the point of unity, black hole, unifying man and snake to connect to source energy. Major. The age. Okay, we said that already. The cardinal axis connects to the goddess. The cardinal axis connects to the goddess. Okay. We said all that. Okay, let's move on. So the serpent and sacred knowledge. And then again, I have the same Carl Jung quote that the serpent shows the way to hidden things. And I wanted to also put in one of these memes that I had made, and I guess I also forgot to do that because I was everywhere. But I'm going to paraphrase, but it says, "We are both the knight and the dragon. When united, we become the wizard. However, we are then presented with a like fork in the road or something like that, where we either become like servant to like truth and humanity, and we become like I wish I had it right here in front of my phone. But the point is that once we obtain this knowledge, we then have like a sort of like an ethical fork upon us, and the serpent can go one of two ways. You either become that like fresh that breath of fresh air and the healer of humanity, or you become the demise of, I'm going to read this right here. Okay. The truth is, we are both the knight and the dragon. And when these polarities are united, the wizard is born. Our power comes online and we become co-creators of this reality. However, a fork in the road is then presented and a question arises. How will you use this power, in service to self or service to others? For a wizard's true quest is to serve humanity. Anything less is a failed mission. So that's why I say that you really need to be prepared for this. With great power comes great responsibility. And the serpent is not to be fucked with. So I'm just going to read some stuff here. Serpents symbolize transformation, rebirth, healing, immortality, passion, fertility, rain, storms, guardians. They also represent so-called evil, metamorphosis, and charm. The serpent is one of the oldest mythological figures. It has its origins mostly in the East, but is spread across Eastern and Western cultures. It is more revered in the East and more feared in the West, because Eastern traditions are way more feminine based, way more of the goddess. Serpents themselves are considered to be immortal, and they regain new life after shedding their skin. People born under the snake symbol in China are expected to lead charmed lives. Snakes can symbolize the umbilical cord tying Mother Earth to other humans. Serpents appear as symbols in many different cultures and have just as many different meanings in each culture. I'm really not going to dive too crazy into all the serpent symbolism. I've done so in tons of videos. You can look at my Draco video. You can look at my last Scorpio video. We dove pretty deep into serpent symbolism. This snake and this dragon energy actually ties into next month's rabbit hole dive, which is going to be on Earth energies. So we're going to be diving deeper then as well. I've had many downloads about how these Earth energies are intertwined serpent lines of yin and yang energy, and that We know you guys have heard me talk about how Stonehenge has a road destined to go through it, and I've been diving deep into lots of sacred sites, particularly here in the Americas, all of the mounds, ancient mound structures and things like that, many of which have had very similar roads put through, not underground, which is really tapping into that energy source, but through it, around it. And I think that it is cutting off the feminine line and then feeding these ley lines, which have been occulted through secret societies and Masons, governmental sites, feeding it this masculine energy. So we're going to talk about how we can counterbalance that. I've had a lot of downloads come through for that. I actually had to pull myself out of the earth energies rabbit hole and put myself into this one. So that one should be really interesting next month as well. So serpents are connected to both water and the underworld. And we see these two serpents repeated over and over again when you talk about earth energies and the male and female ley lines that converge at these points that are underground, so in the underworld, and revolve around water and aquifers. And that one woke me up at 1:11 at 11 on 11:22. So it was 1:11 a.m. on 11:22 when I typed that one into my phone. So it's the connection of that creative force, right? The serpent represents the spiral. It represents the force of creation that runs through our planet, activates that grid, activates the cosmos. It is the force that spins us around the galactic center. It is everything. And that force should be used as a conduit for humanity's evolution and not its demise. So the Galactic Center, we're going to talk now about the Galactic Center. Let's see. How many slides do I have left? Okay, so just the Galactic Center. Okay, so the Galactic Center was technically first even thought of an inkling that there might be something here in this general field around 1930. It's actually was first found by a guy who worked at a phone company, who worked at Bell, then turned into like Pac Bell, which then turned into AT&T, but it was Bell back then. It's weird. My boyfriend worked there for like 20 years. But he was tasked with this is from memory, so forgive me if I get any part of this story wrong. But he was tasked with the job of finding all the interference that would occur with their new like telephone system. And he like any sort of like natural interference. And most of the interference he found was coming from lightning. But there was some weird radio frequency coming from this area of Sagittarius. And at that time in the 30s, a lot of people were like, oh, it's aliens sending a message. And they didn't really know what it was. And it wasn't until 1974 when two astronomers, Bruce Ballack and Robert L. Brown, published a paper after discovering that a radio source in a small region of that area, which was already considered to be the center of the galaxy. We just can't see it because we're on an outer arm. So we can never actually like see it or get a picture of it because we have so many spirals to look through. But we didn't know what was there. It had been speculated that it might be a black hole. They weren't sure if it was a neutron star, if it was what. They knew it had a lot of like gravitational pull. And that in the 30s, they started seeing that there was a radio wave being shot at us from there. And in 1974, they decided that this radio source was coming from the center of the galaxy, and they still didn't really know that it was a black hole. It still was theoretical. At this point, people were like, yeah, this is black hole. This is what we think black holes are, yada, yada, yada. In 2000, it wasn't until 2002 that they got definitive proof by watching the stars in the center of the Milky Way galaxy rotate around this extremely dense point. And the star S2 is the star's name, made this fast turn around this dense point, and that is when they were finally able to pinpoint this location. And it wasn't until November 2010 that it was like officially announced that there was gamma rays and X-rays being shot at us from the Milky Way's galactic core. So still at that point was still theoretical. We still were not sure where this is coming from, but for the most part, astronomers and astrophysicists and theoretical physicists were diving very deep into the concept of black holes, wormholes, and things like that. And in, I believe, 2008, we got the first picture of M87. It was like super blurry, and it wasn't until 2015 and then again in 2019 that we got these like really clear pictures of the black hole super galactic center, which is in Libra. And that is when it was definitive. Okay, we've seen it. We know there is a black hole at the center. So these are all new discoveries. The galactic center is very new to astrology, but the ancients knew a lot about it. That point in the sky was revered. It was understood that this, first of all, they could see the Milky Way spanning across the sky, and that big dense point right there in the middle, that bright light, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of ancient civilizations really resonated with that point as the exit point, that source of pure energy. Black holes, this is a fact from science. So black holes store information. They store 4.78 gigabytes of data per gram of like material of that's like shot out of the center of the galaxy. Per gram of those particles, I guess you would say, it's 4.78 gigabytes of physical data being shot at us of like consciousness and frequency and energy. So this is where we start to talk about, I'm going to go back to here really quick just to make my point, because I want to point at some stuff. I guess we can go here. We go here. Okay, so actually you can see it on this paper because this person physically wrote it, and I haven't actually heard many people make this association, but I have read it online, so I do know other people do know about it. But the ancients considered Orion, which falls here opposite Ophiuchus in, it falls here because I am going to be using the tropical zodiac. Well, I guess we'll just do it here, whatever. It falls in the tropical zodiac in a Gemini, Orion. And it falls opposite Ophiuchus in Sagittarius and the galactic center. Orion is known as the gate of man, while the galactic center and Ophiuchus is known as the gate of the gods. So my downloads regarding this are as follows. Orion is where we came from. The Orion, it's really widely believed that like the Orion Nebula and the stellar nursery housed within there is probably the origin point for much of the matter that makes up our solar system, and therefore our physical carbon bodies. The matter that we are physically made of and our system made out of, not necessarily originally, but our last point area and point of origin prior to that, that matter was somewhere else because it's never ending, came from Orion. Orion falls in Gemini, which is the sign of polarity, and it symbolizes that split. It symbolizes the split of polarization. Osiris, the Osiris, I don't know if I want to talk about that yet. Yeah, I guess it will. So in Egyptian mythology, the constellation of Orion is Osiris. And in the mythology of Osiris, he is split into it depends on the mythology. Sometimes you hear 12, sometimes you hear 14, sometimes you hear 13, but for the most part, it's usually 14 pieces. He's split into 14 pieces, and then Isis, his divine partner, has to like put him all back together. She can't find one piece, so he ends up being 13. And it becomes whole. And the way I see this kind of play out is the coming together of all of these aspects. So we split here in Orion, and our journey here as humans is to travel the zodiac, collecting all of our fucking pieces, and then coming into union here in Ophiuchus when we reach that 13 point. Now, if you remember from the fractal math we did before, we have 13 plus 1, and the 1 is the same as the 13. So that aspect of 14 is represented there. It's also said that while Ophiuchus crosses the ecliptic now, back in antiquity, I tried to find the date for this and I can't find it, but due to precession, when we were tilted in the other direction, Orion, which falls south of the ecliptic, was raised and therefore crossed it, while Ophiuchus didn't. It fell out of it. So we used to have this as part of our ecliptic, and now we have this, showing us the evolution of this journey from duality to unity, from the split to being whole. This is the coming together of the Orion split. This is Ophiuchus is the coming together of the Orion split. It's the feminine yin and the masculine yang coming together through the Serpent and the Galactic Center after integrating all 6 sets of polarities. So you guys have heard me talk about how astrology is not 12 signs. It's actually 6 sets of polarities asking for integration. So after we integrate all 6 of these, we then become whole here between those 2 major polarities that we have within us that manifest in a multitude of ways. And then we can reach this exit point. And then here's just the mythology about the 14 pieces that I already talked about. The 12. I wrote here, the 12 signs of the zodiac. The 13th that symbolizes the journey from Orion to Ophiuchus. And then the 14th is the Galactic Center. Oh, that's what I wrote. Yeah. Okay. So I wrote here the mythology that I just talked about with the Osiris being the 14 pieces, and then I broke down the 14 pieces here. So I said we have 12 pieces, which are the zodiac. It's the 6 sets of polarities. The 13th piece is symbolized by Ophiuchus. It's the journey from Orion to Ophiuchus. And the 14th piece is the Galactic Center. And then I wrote here, I also get that the 13th is the Galactic Center and the 14th is the Super Galactic Center. So I don't know, it's a working theory, but I think that that could play out. So Ophiuchus symbolizes the Kundalini awakening. It symbolizes the ascension process here on Earth. And if you have this point active in your chart, you are here to help guide people through this journey. You are here as the healer. You are here as the mystic. You are here to help people guide them through this from a place of ethics, from a place of knowledge and truth, and not power and corruption. If you don't have any Ophiuchus energy, you still are here to tap into it. You guys know that's my starseed points. I don't care if you have them lined in you. We all have Sirius aspects. We all have Pleiadian aspects. We all have Draco aspects. As above, so below. The cosmos are literally you. If you have these active in your chart, those are things that are there for your mission, to help you integrate here for your specific mission, to help you channel in these energies to share with others. If you don't, it doesn't mean that this energy is not for you to tap into. Okay, so I did just write here. These are notes that came through to me when I was watching Kung Fu Panda with my kids yesterday when I was getting distracted and I was supposed to be working and I was giving myself a hard time for not working. And then I like sat down to eat dinner and the kids were watching Kung Fu Panda and I was like, dude, it's literally all about this stuff. So in Kung Fu Panda, there is a dragon scroll and it's like some ancient secret knowledge that like the sage has been protecting, and like the sage can't even read it himself because he's not the dragon warrior. He wasn't chosen to be the dragon warrior. And he had trained this like big cat guy, I think he was like a tiger, to be the dragon warrior, but he was corrupted and he turned dark and he wanted the power and he attacked him and tried to get the dragon skull and the dragon scroll, and then I don't know what happened, but he like left. And then somehow a panda came and the panda was chosen as the dragon warrior, but this panda was like super clumsy, knew nothing about kung fu, and everybody was like there, and he had to like learn a bunch of kung fu, and he did good. And then he was offered the dragon scroll, and when he opened it, he's all, it's blank, like what the heck, it's blank. And the sage was like, yeah, I don't get it. And then he left and he got this like synchronicity in his life through his dad, who was sharing secret knowledge with him about his like family recipe for noodles. And he's all, I think it's time I share this knowledge with you, the secret knowledge about our secret ingredient. And he goes, the secret ingredient is there's no secret ingredient. And that little bit of information made him realize, open the scroll again and see that it wasn't just empty, it was like a mirror mirroring back his face to him and showing him that there isn't a secret ingredient. It's all there within him. And it's that hermetic teaching that you don't know it until you know it. You can't see it until you see it. And there was a point in time where him and that tiger guy fought, and the tiger guy got the scroll. And because he opened it and he wasn't in that state of mind to fully grasp it, he's just like, what is this? This is empty. It's nothing. And he didn't find the secret hidden teaching. There is no secret ingredient. It just is. It's you. Everything is you. This is all us. We're just coming back into wholeness. We're coming back into oneness. And that happens here at this point. So I have some lot of things here on the Galactic Center. And I'm just going to go through these last couple bits of notes on black holes, just random things that I still haven't fully compiled. But in a black hole, it is theoretically believed that the entrance point of the black hole is black. Nothing you can escape it, not even light. No light is really emitted from it. Frequencies, radios, vibrations, they come shooting out of it. But if you go deep enough, what's believed to be there by theoretical physicists is a white hole, which is just like pure light, pure source, pure consciousness. You enter the black hole and you exit out a white hole, and they don't really know where you go from there. But this is even what scientists believe. So I find that as really being that union of light and dark, I found interesting. So black holes literally sit beyond the laws of physics. It sits not only beyond the zodiac and the number 12, but like physically beyond this physical realm and the laws of physics. This is some entrance point to something else. The galactic center is known as the sun to our sun. This is the point that is the direct source of most of the gravitational energy within our galaxy. It emits powerful activations which are observable by astronomers, and therefore it really does have a profound effect on us here on Earth. This central point is the source of scientifically measurable energetic particles that are shot in Earth's direction and at times travel through our magnetic field. Particularly infrared and gamma ray particles, which are believed to allow one to tap into the subconscious mind and release blockages and traumas while awakening new souls, pre-incarnation memories, dormant DNA, activating higher timelines, and flooding the consciousness with profound downloads of information that are designed to push us forward on our earthly mission. In short, it streams pure cosmic consciousness from extremely high realms, and we have an open line of communication with this point if we want it. To think that the sun has such a profound effect on astrology, and the sun of our sun doesn't, and let alone the sun of our sun's sun, which is super galactic center, which most astrologers, they just don't utilize. I think they are the two most important points in our sky, and I definitely will be talking about them for eternity. I also would like to note that, again, with the gate of man and the gate of gods, the gate of man and the gate of gods, the arm that we fall in the Milky Way spiral is called the Orion arm. That's where we live. And we're literally moving from here to here. And I do think that, at least me, because my chart is littered with these black holes, I really do feel that either this is where we're going or this is where we came from. Whatever's on the other side of this is a whole nother reality that we have all lived in before. It's also said that these super massive black holes, which the center of the Milky Way is a super massive black hole, just like the black hole in the supergalactic center is also a supermassive black hole. We have tons of black holes that fall all throughout here, but they're little. They're little ones, stars that exploded and supernovaed and turned into small little black holes. The super massive black holes are said to have been created when our universe was created. They're so old. They were some of the first stars that expended their life. And so they hold that ancient knowledge of like whatever was before, you know? So let me see what I got here. Oh, new solar systems are created from the energy and particles that are shot out of black holes. So a lot of people talk about how black holes are the, I watched a documentary the other day, the cannibals of the universe. And they talk about how they're like eating and gobbling up all these planets here. And yes, that's true. As you get closer to here, the stars will rotate really close to the black hole without being sucked in. But a lot of gas particles, a lot of stars will eventually be sucked into the black hole. And eventually, our galaxy is going to collide with Andromeda, and our black holes are going to unite, and we're going to become an even bigger elliptical galaxy. We're not going to be here forever. Things are going to change. But as this information and these particles and these cosmic codes are gobbled up by the black hole, it is then shot out into space as usable information that we can tap into. But these also help create new solar systems. It is that process of life and death and rebirth. We actually saw a huge blast from the galactic center back in 1999, which probably kickstarted a lot of our awakenings here. I do credit the year 1999 with being my first mini awakening, which is like right when I found Harry Potter and I realized I wasn't stupid. I just was bored with all the muggle stuff, and this whole world of magic just unfolded before me. And that was apparently right when we had a huge blast from the galactic center. And then I wrote here, we'll merge with Andromeda. We talked about the divine number already, so I'm not going to dive too much around that, but pretty much we spin around the galactic center in this divine spiral, in this Fibonacci sequence of creation. So these are all downloads that I've had about black holes. Black holes are unseen, lost in the scene, or stars. What? Black holes are unseen. They're lost in the sea of stars. Our sun could disappear tomorrow and will one day, but all stars could. And the Milky Way would still be here. The Milky, like, what I'm trying to say is our sun could explode tomorrow and the galaxy is still going to be spinning around that galactic point. That point is more important than our solar system, which is over here. A star could explode here, could explode here, could explode here, could explode here, and this thing is still going to be moving on. This is literally the point that holds us all together. Black holes, I wrote here, black holes hold this bitch together. Change holds us together. Cycles of creation, movement, and constant change, energy and vibration. All of this is found at the center of a black hole. And I also have stuff here about serpents and dragons, because this was all out of my like starseed notes. Some of this stuff I've been writing for years. So when you are initiated into the dragon energy or into the serpent energy, you have to make a decision to use this for service to self or service to others, whether you're using it for good or so-called evil. They have occulted this knowledge and hidden it from us because they want to hold a monopoly on it, use it for their own good, and keep us from tapping into it for ourselves. Requires this energy, the dragon, must feed. And it requires a constant betterment of the self and a constant transformation of the self, or it will literally own energy, and it will get you to also like siphon energy from others through a plethora of different ways, which we can go into at a later date. But it must feed. It requires something from you, and what it really wants is that personal transformation. It's either an ascension or a decision, or a descension once you are initiated. Or some even spiral out of alignment altogether, not literally go insane. If you activate your Kundalini too soon, there's 3 ways that it can manifest. You either descend into a service to self paradigm, you ascend into a service to others ascension paradigm, or you go literally insane if you are unprepared and you are activating these energies before you are ready to. Not everyone passed the tests, and this shit is not for the weak, is what I wrote here. I wrote here that the royal stars that we talked about before, those archangel stars that are going to align with the black holes at some point, represent past life connections to ancient civilizations who kept these secrets hidden. They are the civilizations that really revered those fixed stars and the fixed signs were like the Babylonians and the Persians, and a lot of the people who really started to hide this knowledge, but while using it, I wrote here that they perpetuated the fixed system while keeping the ancient knowledge of the 5th element and the power to work with magic only for the elite. Fixed stars, okay, we did that already. Were used to manipulate. Black holes grow as they absorb information, and then they shoot what they learned out into the cosmos, eating worlds and feeding new ones. And then I have 2 more things here. Balance and integration. Witches travel this realm. This is why we have been demonized throughout history. We are the alchemists. We are the transmuters. We understand duality. We know all exists within us. To come into whole working with the self, it's a unification process where we flip from the distorted energy to the higher octave, tapping into our power and co-creating with the divine. For us, we no longer require a middleman, and we become one with all that is. And this is why we are seen as a fifth, the 13 of the moon, the 12 of the sun, the solstice point of the black holes, and many fixed stars. This is how we incorporate the whole, and it terrifies the cross, is what I said. Okay, that's it. Let me see, what do I have here? Oh, there's some more stuff on the Galactic Center. It's located in Sagittarius. I find it interesting that the distance from us to the Galactic Center is almost the same amount of distance as the Great Year and the Mayan long count calendar, the precession of the equinoxes, and I'm sure that is another like manifestation of the fractalness of our reality. We can't see it because it's hidden behind all these dense clouds, but it can be studied with radio, infrared, and high energy astronomy. And this is what the sky looked like for our ancient ancestors, because there was so much stuff happening at the galactic center. There was a really big activation event. And I believe the next one, I had it written down. It's like around the same time that we're going to be around the same time that we're going to be clashing with Andromeda, our galactic center is also going to be having a huge activation event where like it's going to be spewing shit out that we will be able to see from here. That's like 4 million years from now. Oh no, 4.5 billion years from now. And there's also supposed to be another activation event there in theory, I think they said in like 400 million years as well. Okay, and then I just had to put this here because I've just had so many synchronicities, and of course, all my notes were on 13 pages. So I thought I would share that with you guys. What's next? Come on. Okay, so I did a card pull. I'm gonna come check in the chat to see if you guys want me to read this card pull, but I did a card pull and I was gonna pull a sigil, but like none of the sigils were right, so I made one. And this is the sigil that I created for Ophiuchus. The center is the galactic center. This is that cross of the stars, the fixed stars that are then going to align with this cross of the galactic points. And we have the serpent opening up this portal for us. So I put this here if you guys want to screenshot it. Here, I'll move my thing. Move. Okay, there. If you guys want to screenshot that, I'll also post it on Discord, but I'm going to come over to the chat. 13 was stalking me. Okay. All right, guys. Let me go over here. So hopefully I made sense. I know I threw a lot of stuff at you. This is just how it's come through for me. I'm not trying to say that anything is wrong or anything doesn't work. This is just how astrology has spoken to me, how I have built a relationship with all of these different cosmic bodies. There's a multitude of different ways it has reached out for other people. If 13 sign astrology is how this came through for you, roll with it. I'm not here to tell you otherwise, but I don't think it should be susceptible to like aspects and only harnessing like a portion of the zodiac when I really think it encompasses all of it. So I had done a little card reading, but I don't think I'm going to go over it because it's literally midnight. I love you guys so much. I hope I made sense. I know I said a lot of stuff. This was a rabbit hole that I had a lot of it came to me through the rabbit hole. I had my views on Ophiuchus, which a lot of it I shared with you tonight, but I added a lot, especially about like the sacred math when it comes to the number 13 and the spiral and all of that was all channeled very, very recently. Yeah, I was going to read more about like the symbolism of the serpent, but we've done that. So I appreciate you guys so much. I hope I made sense. I also hope I didn't offend anybody. I was trying. People are usually polarized on this, on what it is they think is right or blah, blah, blah. And when you look into this on YouTube, people have definitely taken a stand. And I just kind of think like it's all valid. And yeah, this is my story. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Kelly. I'm going to go before they kick me off. Hopefully this is the last time that we have to use the software, and we're going to be moving over to Zoom. And then, yeah, it should be fun. Bye, guys. I appreciate you. Have a great night. Our next video is, I don't have it here, but it's going to be for our eclipse. And we're going to be doing divination with books. So start looking around to see what kind of books you have. Occult books, esoteric books, spiritual books, any kind of books. You want to have books that have a big thing here and will open on their own to some sort of like, well, this isn't a bad example, page. Aw, this is a bad example. But anyway, we're going to be divining with books. It's going to be fun. Love you guys. Have a great day. Oh, the 28th. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate you all. I'm going to be sending out the December abundance packages probably the first or second week of December. If you want to be part of the abundance tier and have me mail something magical to you every month, you have until the 1st to like upgrade your membership to the abundance tier, and then you will be part of the December crew that I will be sending stuff out to. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the 28th. Bye. Thank you so much.